So I was recently thinking about this little i3 550 that I had listed on my website, and I had it listed for about $10, and I was looking at it and I was like, what could I do with this? So today we're going to build an esports gaming PC with it. So, first of all, let's go over the parts real quick before we actually get into the build. Obviously, this is going to be an older PC build. The 550 and that generation of Intel CPUs came out right after the Intel Core 2 Quad and Core 2 Duo era of CPUs. So this is definitely a pretty old system. Starting off, of course, like I said, we have the i3 550. This is a 2-core, 2-thread CPU. Not a lot of power out of that chip, but this is going to be like an esports gaming PC, so it should do fine. I'm kind of going with a black and blue theme. I just thought it'd be a cool idea. For the motherboard, we've got the Asus P7H55M Pro. This is a micro ATX motherboard. You know, all the standard features that you need. For the memory, we've got 16 gigabytes of DDR3. This is HyperX Fury RAM in this nice brushed aluminum blue color. So I really like the look of this memory. We'll see how that performs as well. As far as the hard drive goes, we've got this Western Digital 640 gigabyte hard drive for all our games and things. And then as a boot drive, we have a 500 gigabyte PNY 3.5-inch SATA SSD. Obviously, there's no NVMe support on this board. For the power supply, this has a blue LED fan, which is mostly the reason I got it. This is a Rocketfish 500 watt 80 plus power supply. If you don't know, Rocketfish is actually a really well-known brand that makes all sorts of power supplies and adapters for laptops and things like that. So when I saw they make a desktop power supply, I was like, well, I have to try that. And of course the blue fan will go with our theme. As for the graphics card, this is an Asus Strix GTX 960, so definitely an old GPU. This has 2 gigabytes of VRAM, but honestly a really great GPU and perfect for esports titles and getting over 100 FPS in esports games. I just benchmarked this graphics card. There will be a benchmark video coming out probably before this PC build actually, so you can go watch that if you haven't already. For the CPU cooler, now this is definitely overkill for this dual-core CPU, but here at Tronix PCs, we want your system to perform at peak performance, so I got the Cooler Master Hyper 212 RGB, which has a 120mm fan on it, and the Montech Fighter 500 case that I got already has pre-installed fans, but just so that the fans all sort of match up, I got a 5-pack of up here 120mm RGB fans. These are a great budget option. You can pick up a 5-pack for around $60, and from my experience, I've used these fans a lot in the past. The build quality is great, and they perform really well. I've even used these in my personal gaming PC for a while, and I can say that these are really solid fans. So with that out of the way, let's get into the build. So a couple of things with this PC. The RAM, unfortunately, did not want to work in here. It worked in every other system that I tested it in, but as soon as I put it in this system, the whole thing just kept bugging out, restarting, blue screening. So I unfortunately had to put G.Skill 16 gigabytes of DDR3 in here, which has red heat sinks, so definitely doesn't match the whole black and blue theme, but that's kind of unfortunate. Also, the RGB fan on this Cooler Master cooler, it has a 4-pin RGB header, whereas the up here RGB controller in the back for the fans has a 3-pin RGB header. So unfortunately, that can't be hooked up, and if it is hooked up, it has to be only blue, which kind of sucks. And I want the customer for this PC to be able to, customize all the colors. So I decided to opt just for leaving it unplugged. That way, you can still customize all the colors, and all the colors don't clash and everything. The reason I'm not doing or just getting the cable for this is there's no hookups or plugs on the motherboard for a 4-pin or any RGB header because this board is sold. So I'd have to have 2 hubs, one for the fans and one just for the cooler, which I don't really think that's a great idea. It just kind of seems useless to me. So we're just going to run with the LED fan off. So I'm going to try out some esports gaming on this thing. I'm going to start off with Rocket League, which is a little bit easier to run, and then I'm going to move on to Overwatch, which is definitely a little bit more of a demanding esports game. And I'm just going to throw Fortnite in there as well, just to give this PC a little bit more of a challenge. Fortnite has gotten a lot more demanding with the graphics and everything, so I think it'll be an interesting test to see if this PC can run it. So I'm playing Rocket League right now, and as you can see, as for settings here, we've got everything maxed out. I'm going to actually set this frame rate to being uncapped, and we're going to turn on some anti-aliasing just because we can. And we're getting high 80s, low 90s. Pretty decent FPS, honestly, for running max settings, and the game looks really good as well. All the reflections just looks really crisp and clear, and looking really nice. So the temps are also really good. We're only getting about low 60s on the GPU and about low 30s on the CPU as well. I actually benchmarked this CPU in Cinebench R23 just to see what it kind of do, and it actually only maxed out at about 37 degrees Celsius, which is pretty good. So here we are in Overwatch, and I'm on a mix of medium and high settings for the most part, and we're getting about high 40s to 50s, and it'll jump up to 60s every once in a while. I would actually recommend probably turning the settings down to maybe more of a medium, but this is completely playable, and it's actually very, very smooth, even though we're only getting about 40 FPS. There's no weird lag spikes or anything like that, and it's pretty solid. And once again, the temps are really good. We're getting about 50 degrees Celsius on the GPU and about low to mid 30s on the CPU. So honestly, pretty good. So I'm now in Fortnite here, and as we can see, we're on pretty much competitive settings, everything off and on low except for the epic view distance. And as you can see in this game, the GPU is heavily being bottlenecked by the i5 or i3 550, heavily being bottlenecked, which is quite interesting because in all the esports titles that we were playing, I feel like it was a lot more balanced than it is in this game. But in this, you can see a massive, massive difference, which is kind of crazy. So there we go. But as we can see, just like in the other games, we're getting really good temperatures, under 60 degrees Celsius on the GPU. Obviously, it's not being utilized. But even for the CPU to be running at 100% usage and still only running at the low 30s is really impressive. This Cooler Master Hyper 212 is definitely overkill for the CPU, but I just like to have a CPU that's cooled really well. That way it has tons of breathing room to just operate at max performance. So definitely not necessarily a PC for more AAA titles and things like that just because of the CPU bottleneck. But for esports gaming, like Rocket League, CSGO, Valorant, stuff like that, this thing would absolutely be perfect for those types of games. So guys, this was honestly a really fun little build to do, just to kind of see what kind of performance you can get out of some really old hardware. If you guys are interested in this PC, it is going to be for sale on our website. I'll leave a link for it down in the description below if you are interested in buying it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.